All right. Well, hello everyone that made it tonight. I had chosen Love and Mercy, which is a biopic, obviously, of the newly late Brian Wilson. Um, it shows up, it was filmed in 2014, but it was released actually just 10 years ago this week on June 19th of 2015, starring John Cusack and Paul Dano. John Cusack plays the middle-aged Brian Wilson. Paul Dano plays the younger Brian Wilson. Elizabeth Banks, Paul Giamatti. He plays the vicious Eugene Landy. And yeah. As far as, and the director was Bill Pohlad, and Bill Pohlad did not really direct a lot of things, better known as a producer. He produced 12 Years a Slave and Brokeback Mountain, among others. So anyway, it was filmed by, interesting piece of trivia, it was filmed 100% in California. Everything in that film was filmed somewhere in California, but several locations. As far as budget goes, it was, I saw it was approximately 10 million. In the US, it grossed 12 million, so not a huge blockbuster, but they didn't lose money. Worldwide, 28 million. So that's the money. Interesting little factoid about money. They figure that Eugene Landy's, misappropriation and all of the manipulations of Brian's estate cost Brian Wilson about $3 million. Let's see. Awards-wise, no Oscar nominations at all, but it did get a couple of Golden Globes. Just two nominations, no wins. Paul Dano got a nomination, lead actor, and then Best Original Song was also nominated, but didn't win. Lots of the smaller, different, this city's Film Critics Circle kinds of nominations. The Kansas City, by the way, Film Critics Circle nominated Elizabeth Banks for her role, supporting actress. And then the St. Louis Film Critics Circle, Paul Dano was nominated, and so was the soundtrack, and it won. So
Ah.
we figured that out where some of those other areas. Anyway, what else did I want to say? I had some more, just a couple of things. Oh, reviews. Generally favorable. Its Metascore on IMDb is 80. It got an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, and RogerEbert.com gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And then the singing that you heard in the movie was actually the actors' voices blended with actual audio of the Beach Boys, which is why it sounded so authentic. But you're also hearing some of the actors' voices, which was kind of cool. Yeah. So,
why would they do that?
that part wasn't covered in what I read, like why. But I guess they didn't want lip sync, so they had the actors sing, but they also, sort of ran the Beach Boys vocals under that too to give it that richness and make it sound like the real thing. That's my interpretation. So, yeah, I'm eager to see, or hear, I should say, if you liked it, how you liked it, what you liked about it. Did John Cusack do a more believable, portrayal of Brian Wilson, or did Paul Dano? So that's my question. So, all right. Who wants to go?
Well, I'll start. I'm not a big Beach Boys fan, never have been, but I really enjoyed this movie. I was broadly familiar with Beach Boys music. Obviously, their hits. My wife had bought the album Pet Sounds. I bought Smile when it came out. Listened to it a few times, not many. I think Paul Dano's look and portrayal of young Brian Wilson really scored with me. I'm not quite sure why John Cusack got that part. He didn't do a bad job, but I was kind of puzzled by this. I think Giamatti's Dr. Landy was brilliant, and I mean, he comes off as just an absolute snark of a man, which I understand he was. Um, so I really liked Giamatti in that role. Um, the woman who played the what was it, second or third, Mrs. Brian Wilson also did a good job. Comes
Elizabeth
off
Banks,
as a very believable character. I understand, and again, I'm not that familiar with Beach Boys history. That uh, Brian's brother Carl was also really heavily influential in getting Landy moved off to the side and restoring Brian Wilson to some sort of psychological balance. And then again, because I'm not that familiar with the Beach Boys story, I thought the scenes where they replicated the documentaries of how the Beach Boys built their sound and built up good vibrations was excellent. That charmed the pants off me. I found that to be the most interesting part of a movie that, like I say, not being very familiar with the Beach Boys history, I found it entertaining, and I think I learned some things from it. Again, Giamatti's role as the villain in this was just great. And then I think either today or yesterday, reading a little bit about it, Giamatti's wig his toupee was so bad, I can't believe that they didn't make fun of it during the movie.
Well, there's a lot of the reviews say that. I mean, after they get through the bigger stuff, they're like, and also, what about that wig? You know?
Yeah. But yeah, no, I liked it. I liked it a lot. And like I say, it was educational for me because I wasn't that familiar with the Beach Boys story. So I liked it. It was a good pick, very timely.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it, Mike.
Yeah. Little did we know, Karen, that you were clairvoyant or something. I don't know, some sort of psychological
pick I have, much later in the year. Those people better look out.
Yeah. No, I thought it was fabulous, and I learned a lot about the Beach Boys as well. I always enjoyed their music, but I never really delved into who they were and why, what they did. But the way that those songs were put together was just remarkable. He was genius. So, it's no wonder he was crazy. He just had that stuff in his head. It was just amazing, how brilliant he was. But one scene that I got a kind of a kick out of was his piano in the sandbox.
And yeah.
Like, what? that was kind of interesting. I'm not sure the meaning of that exactly.
They're the Beach Boys.
That's why that was
gotta
the
be on
beach.
the beach.
Yeah, that was the beach. Yeah.
That, or maybe to be creative or something. I'm not sure, but I had read or heard that John Lennon always thought that the Beach Boys were the best band ever.
Yeah.
And the Beatles,
that sounds really just,
the Beatles took a lot, from the Beach Boys. So loved it. Hated Giamatti or the lady there. What a creep. Oh my gosh. He's so evil.
And he actually had kind of got his claws into Brian Wilson even earlier, from 75 to 76. Brian, there's pictures, photos of Brian during that era with Eugene Landy. And then he somehow, I don't know all the details, but somehow they ended it. And then back in 82, when things were even worse in terms of, Brian Wilson just sort of on down the rabbit hole. Landy got hold of him again, and then until 89, when the cease and desist, and they took his license away, and all that happened in 89. They didn't get it fully resolved in terms of the financial until like the 90s.
Wow, just very, very powerful story, and I enjoyed it very much.
Hey, what was the yeah, I remember hearing about this, but I don't remember why. There was that scene, and I don't know what song they were cutting, but they had everybody in the band wearing toy fire hats. Anybody know why that was?
I think those were just montages from like the kinds of promotional pictures. Like remember early Beatles, how they'd have them all dressed in the same costume and they'd
Yeah,
all be
yeah.
posing in some way. And the Beach Boys did that too. Um, Even the Who did that. I mean, bless their little hearts, early on. And it was kind of the thing in the, 64, 65, 66. So I think some of that, the hats and all five of them carrying a surfboard, and those were all just,
Well, wasn't he running around with something that was making smoke or fire or something? I mean, I thought it was kind of showing that he was losing his mind.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I think there was some of that in there, sort of the, oh, look, we're having so much fun, except for him,
Yeah,
He's having his own fun in his own head.
those are the days of wacky stuff when the monkeys were around, and that people, the Beatles movies where they were running around on the beach and doing just crazy stuff. So that fits time wise.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, the bands they did back then, they wore the same costumes a lot, but I mean, I think they were more like following up on Jan and Dean and
Mhm.
some of those groups, the Monkees. I mean, we were listening to the Beach Boys before we were listening to the Beatles.
Paul Revere and the Raiders, and they were those,
Yeah.
17,
Paul Revere, that's a
kind of
good example.
costumes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was how I took it, was that they were just kind of recreating those little montages. And
Yeah.
kind of it made it easier to sort of keep slipping all those great songs in, which, no complaints from me. But this is the other thing I found out. Right in 64, when he was making Pet Sounds, when he said, "You guys go to Japan, I'm not." He stopped touring and did not start touring again, even, off and on periodically with the Beach Boys until 76. So those of us that did see them at Mizzou in 72, yeah, in the spring of our
Maybe
freshman,
Not
we
there.
didn't see Brian. Brian was not there. We saw everybody else. Yeah.
I think they were they not on a bill at Arrowhead in the mid 70s. I think they had. I think it might have been like the Stones, the Eagles, and the Beach Boys. Does that ring a bell with anybody?
I saw it. No, I think it is. I think I saw when I was looking up when did he start coming back? I think if that was like 76, that was, I think 'cause it was, I remember when you said the Eagles, that made me like, yeah, it was the Eagles and somebody else and the Beach Boys, and Brian did come back for that. He kind of did things, off and on after 76. And then in 72, no, in 82, he really started, I think, Landy was making him, but he was putting things out on his own. Remember that scene in the movie where he's like screaming at him to make music? Yeah, they actually did
Yes, that was
a whole
terrible.
album with Landy produced. So yeah, that was mid 80s, but yeah. And
This,
he was on Saturday Night Live too in the late 70s. They did a thing with Belushi and Aykroyd dressed as cops going up the stairs in California and serving him a summons because he wasn't surfing. Violated the you must surf this many days out of the year if you live this close to the beach or something. Yeah.
well, this is the second time I saw it, and I was thinking, what led up to him losing it? I mean, he sort of had it together, right? I mean, he didn't want to tour and all that, but the film doesn't go over that. It doesn't say, what was going on. Did his family abandon him?
That's what I was curious about.
But he
Yeah,
says to Melinda when she says, "Oh, how long have you been hearing voices?" And he said, "Since 1964."
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out
he's your classic schizophrenic.
who
The
put
right
this
age,
together.
the right situation with that abusive father, and
Mhm.
yeah,
I mean, he got sued by Mike Love to get songwriting credit. He got sued by, I don't know if his dad sued him, but it was obviously a weird situation.
his dad
And
sold the rights to their songs.
yeah, sold the
Yeah, that
catalog.
was That was a big thing. That was it just like, you did what?
Mhm.
Oh
Can you
yeah.
imagine? He got $750,000 for all of the Beach Boys. I mean,
That was
prior
big money then.
Not that big.
not
Look at
not
how
lifetime money though. Yeah, you hang on to
look
those
at
lifetime
look,
money.
look at how they were I mean, they were living in pretty fancy places overlooking oceans, you know,
Yeah.
Mhm.
high
And he had
level.
multiple houses, he said. He had
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
farther.
There was a
Mhm.
cash flow thing going on there, but the long-term benefit of that was all the rights to the music, and his dad just sold it right off. Didn't his dad part of the time produce somebody else like Janet Dean or
I
somebody?
think that's,
Something,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure what he did. That was kind of
'Cause they-
confusing.
Yeah, because they fired him. He wasn't a
Mhm.
good manager and wasn't helping him, so they got rid of dad, and he kind of struck back at them.
well,
Right.
in reading a little bit more, there was a conflict with, I can't remember Elizabeth Banks' character's name, whatever.
Linda.
Melinda Ledbetter.
Melinda, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, there's conflicts with her, divorce, and then suits and stuff like that. I was wondering who wrote this or who put it together, or because there are so many viewpoints that you
Yeah.
have to believe this one makes for a good story.
Mhm.
But
Well, from what I read, it
everybody
is
close to
Melinda's
the
point of
band or
view.
him sued him.
That at least from what I read, that most of what is there came from Melinda and other sources, but she was sort of the impetus behind it. And
So
if you
they
go
got
back, like,
divorced.
uh,
Well, I thought
uh,
I thought he said that they got
Yeah,
divorced.
yeah,
um,
Oh, did they get divorced? Is that what you're saying?
that's what I thought I read.
They got married in 1995 and she died in 2024. They were still married.
Yeah, she just died a year ago.
Yeah, they were still
Yeah.
married. So
yeah, that's what I
I was-
thought. I thought they were still married, but
I was curious.
well, when she died. But if you go to Eugene Landy's Wikipedia page, yeah, I can tell I had time on my hands. The only people that have said, oh, what's in Love and Mercy, oh, that's just a lot of, exaggeration, and they're just, denying it, is Landy's son and Mike Love. That guy.
What about him?
Was he in the movie? This Mike Love guy?
Mike Love, yeah, he's the
Yeah.
cousin
Yeah.
that's like, you can't do this, and we,
Oh, okay.
we need to get back to the way the Beach Boys used to sound.
Yeah, the hat and the red beard guy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I noticed in the credits he got co-credit on just about every song.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was wondering how that played out too. It's like, was he really a co-writer? They didn't make it seem like it.
He went to court to Mike Love did. He went to court claiming that he should have gotten writing credits for a lot of Beach Boys material. He ended up getting credits for something like 35 or 40 songs, including some of their biggest hits. But he didn't get all of them. But he was. I think they conceded it. He was a pretty big influence on it. I want to go back for a second here. Clearly, Brian Wilson was kind of I guess, psychologically fragile guy to begin with, and then that gets complicated when he starts to do hallucinogenic drugs.
Right.
And I know two or three people that were big Beach Boys fans that always blamed the drugs for his mental breakdown, when in fact it was the drugs were a factor
Yeah.
of it. But he was also, psychologically pretty fragile individual to start with. And at least a couple of these folks have said, I liked Brian Wilson until he got into drugs, and then he disappointed me, and I didn't like him so much, but I still like the Beach Boys. So that was part of it. It was the hallucinogenics. I guess he took awful lot of acid, and then on top of the fact that he was psychologically frail.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he was
mean-
forced to take so many of those drugs.
Yeah, in the 80s when Landy got his claws back into him, yeah, he was over medicated for sure.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I think he
Make
was
that in
willing.
they make that in the movie, but you also you read about what the list of drugs that he was on. It was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I think he was doing the hallucinogenics
Oh yeah.
in the late '60s and early '70s on his own volition, because
Yeah.
that was part of the climate of the time.
Yeah, mid 60s, like 65.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, George Harrison and Patty Boyd came over to the United States in '67, Summer of Love, and they were just like totally freaked out by all of the hippies and all of the strange stuff and all of the degree, the level of drug use and abuse, and yeah. And I always think about like, wow, somebody is, we scared we scared George Harrison back over in England
Yeah.
with our San Francisco scene. But yeah, even in LA, in the mid '60s, there was a pretty decent drug scene going on, especially if you were in the music biz and had the cash. So
Yeah, the other thing I learned about this that I didn't know, and it really kind of surprised me because I know a lot about Bob Dylan, but what was that Pet Sounds and Dylan's Blonde on Blonde, the first major double album in rock and roll history. They both were released on the same day in 1966. And I didn't know that.
Wow.
Pretty big day.
yeah.
I
Didn't
heard,
Chuck?
go
sorry,
ahead.
Go ahead. I think I remember didn't Chuck Berry sue the Beach Boys too for one of their songs that was like a direct derivative from one of his?
Yeah. There's one of their songs
Yeah,
that
it was
now
Surfing USA, I think.
Chuck Berry song.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's right, Mike.
Good. Yeah.
I hadn't heard that before. I heard like his some guy that was his friend that was a journalist. He said he was talking on NPR the other day, and he said that Rubber Soul led to Pet Sounds, and Pet Sounds led to Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Oh, wow.
Because every time like I'll talk to my friends and
The
they'll say
Rolling Stones at
Pet
Her
Sounds.
Majesty's request. Wasn't that another one kind of in that era of
What was?
at Her Majesty's request that Rolling Stones,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the
that was their
complicated
psychedelic.
cover, kind
Yeah.
of like, very psychedelic, complicated cover. Yeah.
But I mean, I've had friends lots of times, they'll say, "Oh, Pet Sounds, best album of all time," and I'll go through it and I'll go, I've got to figure out what they're talking about. I mean, I get parts of it, I do get parts of it, but just listening to the whole thing as a total, I don't think I'm quite there with them on it yet. But I keep trying, and movies like this kind of helps me get there.
Yeah. Just the orchestration on some of those songs, though, it was just so, we've heard them for 60 years, but at the time, the orchestration, the way what Brian did with those songs was so out of the ordinary, out of, not like anything else that was going on in popular, young people music. Yeah.
And the other thing is he was dealing with 4 tracks, okay, not 8, not 16 or anything like that. And so I think, Bill, that's part of it is the level of sophistication of the production on Pet Sounds was what probably impressed the Beatles and George Martin and others that went to that, even though Pet Sounds is not psychedelic in the fashion that, say, Sergeant Pepper is.
I don't think it was a critical success when it was released either.
No, they all the records before that they'd gotten gold, and Pet Sounds did not go gold. No.
Well, I mean, commercial success, but yeah, I think it wasn't well received for a few years afterwards, until a few years afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Almost like those movies, like they when they come out there, and then suddenly they become a cult classic, and they're they have a life of their own. Yeah.
Talking about Brian Wilson's engineering, I think I remember that he was one of the first guys to take 2 stereo tracks and ping them to another track so that he would have space on the tape to do other stuff. And so he would multi-track, but it was a lot of going back and forth from one track to another with 2 from the other side, and that way he had made space for himself on there. But I don't know how that would be hard to mix, I would think.
And the multitude of different instruments
Yeah.
that he would
That
use.
that scene where he had the cello players playing
Yeah.
staccato, and everybody else was going and he had in the back of his mind something, and it was out to be the theremin. And I'd listened to that a million times, and I had never figured out that was cellos behind the theremin.
Mm.
There you go. Well, I had read somewhere that sort of the overarching message of Love and Mercy is the belief that a belief in people in spite of all the terrible things that humans are capable of. That's what I thought. Oh, I kind of like that. We'll go with that. Yeah. Well, Jeff Arthur, did you like it?
Yeah. If we could rewind this back to when Mahoney first started, I think he stole my notes because he said exactly everything I was thinking, like to the letter.
Great minds.
But yeah, I was never a big Beach Boys fan. I mean, of course I'd heard of them, but I was more of a rock person. I think the Landy guy without his character, the movie would have been much more lame. But no, it was a good
story. Yeah.
history lesson. I mean, I learned a lot. I mean, if this is accurate, I learned a lot about the Beach Boys. And yeah, I had no idea that this guy had lost his mind, or at least had mental issues. So
kind of like the Pink Floyd guy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad.
Sid Barrett from Pink Floyd.
I think so. I'm so bad. But yeah, that he much the same, was sort of had a fragile mental state, and then just was eating acid like candy, and oh geez, yeah, things didn't go so well.
I thought that for her being Melinda Ledbetter being like the heroine of this whole show, I don't feel like, I mean, they did sort of portray her that way, but they end up getting married and all that. It kind of made me wonder if like the family wasn't more involved than what the movie was saying, But
well, she called Carl every time she thought they could do something. Remember, she called Carl like these 2, maybe 3 times in this course of trying to get Landy.
Carl was the motor that kind of made it.
I agree.
Carl Wilson was.
Carl Wilson,
Yes.
that brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right after this movie was over, on my TV, it kind of switched into another Beach Boys movie, on there. And they had a different guy playing their dad, but he kind of was dressed the same way and all that. And he was a mean old guy, but I think it was more about, which is the one who was the youngest one that played drums?
Dennis.
He's
also friends with Charlie Manson.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I think it was going off in that whole direction, where Dennis, because as much maybe as you thought that the dad didn't like Brian Wilson, he didn't like Dennis Wilson at all.
Yeah, you got to figure that most of that LSD was coming from Dennis's friends.
Yeah.
So
there are a lot of ways the Beach Boys story goes. There's a lot to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All
right. Well, I guess that's everybody. Oh, the question was who is the best Brian, Paul, or John?
I say John.
Question.
Paul Dano. Paul.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Oh, yeah, I
that's,
thought that.
Okay,
No,
I'll
Yeah.
go.
I say John. I
Say
think John
John,
had a
why? Why?
he had a harder acting role. He had to be tortured and put up with, and interact with Landy and interact with the woman he eventually married. And I felt like he had to dig a little deeper for his portrayal. Whether he was more accurate as a Brian Wilson, that's up for grabs. But I think in terms of just the acting, I liked him better. So
Well, he had
sorry.
that part of dyskinesia, that all those strange
Yeah.
facial.
Yeah, he had a lot of weird
Body-
facial
Yeah,
tics and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He did have to do that. But Paul Dano really had that affect down for, Brian, as Mike Mahoney said, mentally fragile. He really he pulled it off, I thought. Yeah. But and when
I guess
he'd
he
have,
gained a whole bunch of weight for that role too.
I would think so, because
Yeah.
having Paul Dano and other things, that's not his body type usually. But yeah. So
I said that
Well,
Brian Wilson got up to 300 pounds at one point too. So
yeah.
When he was in bed for months
Yeah,
or
for 2
weeks.
years.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and agoraphobic. I mean, he would not leave the house. That's
Yeah.
that sand. Do you think you said, Chris, about the sand under his feet, and he wouldn't. Yeah, they had to bring the beach to him because he wouldn't leave the house.
No, he didn't like the beach. I mean, he even said
Yeah.
that in the movie.
Yeah.
He said no, he wanted nothing to do with it.
When I saw him, at that Pet Sounds 50th deal,
Yeah.
that was down at Kaufman Center, and I think they brought him in a wheelchair, and they kind of rolled him up to a piano, and he was right in the middle. He had like 10 people with him. Al Jarreau, is that what? No, what's his
Al Jardine.
Al Jardine, yeah. He
his
was
friend.
he was there. Carney Wilson, his daughter, I guess. And like his son-in-law, I guess, is a real good musician. But I mean, and so these people were all playing his music, and he would just kind of come in once in a while. But you could tell his health was not good. But he was real friendly to the audience and all that. He was great, And
If you look at his
really
interviews,
fun.
different interviews, he'll seem very lucid, and others it's like, oh, what's up? What's going on? Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So we're done with Love and Mercy. So we're ready for like suggestions. Because I have two this week. All right. First one, if you're wanting something not quite so poppy, but a little more rock and roll, I'm going to recommend, because I watched it again and loved it, from 2004, Festival Express. Festival Express is a documentary from the summer of 1970, when the band, the Grateful Dead, and Janis Joplin took a train across Canada and put on shows.
Yeah.
It's
That's amazing. I saw that recently.
it's so fun when they're on the train, and there's all bets are off. But they're still filming. Everybody's high and drunk and acting up. Yeah, and they're still filming. It is hilarious. Janis Joplin is at her best. It was 1970. Wow, she didn't have too much longer. So that's from 2004, Festival Express. That's my one. The other one that I watched this week that I really, really liked, The Last Showgirl. It's just from last year, from 2024. Pamela Anderson is in it, and Jamie Lee Curtis. And I love, love, love Dave Bautista is in it, and he's so great in that. And it's about the last show in Vegas that still did, with their trussed up and with the, and the big hat pieces, and they're walking down that, it's like shows got, yeah, right. I mean, there was a reason why they were the last showgirls, but it's really well done. And it was free on Hulu. So yeah, The Last Showgirl. That's my other recommendation.
If you want another band to see a documentary about on Netflix, is Becoming Led Zeppelin. And it's pretty interesting. I don't really care for their music, but their story is really good. And the men individually and band members are just wow, geniuses. The way they could play their instruments and stuff. But that was a good one.
But that's mostly archive footage and stuff like that, or is it a movie?
Yes.
I think
Thank you.
the former. I've
Yeah.
seen some of that too. I think it is
Yeah.
mostly archive stuff, and they kind of tried to put it together in a way that had a timeline.
Yeah, right. It had a timeline, and it was the interviews with the individual band members and
Mhm.
what they remember. And they actually became more popular in the US before they ever were in England.
So Festival Express must have been archival footage too.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. They basically made a movie of the train ride.
Right. And a little bit of the concerts too, but yeah.
Yeah. Concerts weren't, as I recall, the concerts were they weren't big successes sometimes. They just kind of piled off the train, and they not well organized and didn't make a lot of money. And
Yeah,
but
I
they
know
had
that they did not make a lot of money, but there was at least one where there was a really big turnout, but things just sort of went sideways. Yeah.
yeah, but great music. And they're just jamming on the train,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
hanging out, staying up till all hours of the morning, and just playing with each other. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I've seen it. It's really good.
It's fun. Any other?
Has anybody been watching Department Q? That's pretty good, isn't it?
Very interesting. Very British. Oh man.
Yeah, he's English, but the setting is Scotland.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
sorry, Scotland. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Still part of the UK.
There you go.
That's still
On the British Isles.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I can pull that off.
Yeah,
You
they
can.
do some pretty good back and forth about that, you know.
Mhm.
Like you're okay for an Englishman and stuff like that. But that guy, he was in The Imitation Game, and he was in Downton Abbey.
Yeah, yeah. He was the
Matthew Good.
yeah, yeah. He was.
But it's very good. It's very exciting. It's kind of like
It's
Cold
isn't it?
Case. It's kind of like Cold Case. They'll have another season,
Mhm.
but like Cold Case, it takes a whole season, really, you know, instead of being a different Cold Case every night. So I don't know, but anyway, it was really good. There aren't a lot of series that I'm sitting down to watch these days. I prefer the movies.
And then Slow Horses comes back in September. Woo.
Oh, good.
Love that
Well,
show.
and what's the one Chicago
The Bear.
the
Oh,
Bear?
the Bear.
It's
Yeah,
coming
that
back.
comes back.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, in the last Showgirl that I recommend, Jamie Lee Curtis, she's kind of very similar to the character that she plays as the mom in The Bear in some
Oh.
ways. Yeah, yeah. And I know, and I've seen Jamie Lee Curtis, on the red carpet and she's still a beautiful woman, but in this show she looks horrible. And she is just working it. She's such a great actress. I love her. She's got the almost white, Chris, that almost white lipstick, that just
Yeah.
looks
Oh,
like nobody. Nobody. Yeah.
I remember that. I think I probably had some.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
So who's got the pick?
I think it's me since Gary's not here. So,
Okay.
so I had a hard time picking. I got three good ones here, but I'm gonna pick a 1958 film. I used to call these old movies old has-been movies, but but it's yeah, I know. It's called Witness for the Prosecution. You guys
Ew.
heard of this? It's Marlene Dietrich, Tyrone Power, and Charles Lawton. It's a legal courtroom kind of, yeah, good reviews, really good reviews. So
What's
Well,
it
I'll
on?
be in Oxford for the next 2 meetings. I leave on July 1st and I come back on the 25th. So unfortunately, I'll miss the next 2, but I'll be back in August.
Yeah, Jeff, Arthur, where'd you find that?
I think it's on all the streaming deals,
Okay.
Prime for sure.
For rental or whatever?
Yeah.
That'll be on July 7th, correct?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
The next one will be,
Yes.
okay. Okay.
Then hopefully we can go back and pick Gary up so he can
Mhm.
have a
He can do 2 or 3.
Yeah, I know, right? He can just finish out the year.
I'm glad we changed time for him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. But
Exactly.
I'm starting to get used to 6 o'clock. I kind of like it in a way.
I like it.
Yeah.
I prefer 7, but that's me.
Do you?
It's early for me, but
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, bless your heart. Thank you,
Earlier.
Jeff. That was
Yeah.
our Midwestern time.
Okay.
Yes, that's it. Well, thank you guys for watching my choice and having some good
Well, Karen, I'm
discussion.
almost afraid for you to pick the next one.
That's what I'm saying. The next time I have to pick, I'm gonna pick something with like somebody really old in it, you know?
You better be
Even if
fiction.
it's just a character, if it's just a character actor, I'll be like, oh, what about, he's not looking so good.
Just don't do a biopic. Just don't do a biopic, okay?
Yeah,
Or
that
somebody
too.
that's
Yeah,
already
right,
dead.
right. Who could I do?
Yeah.
Is there a biopic about Trump?
There you go.
You've heard that, like, oh, I had this dream. There was a parade, and there were all these people. The streets were lined, and Trump says, "Well, how did my hair look?" And the guy says, "I don't know. The casket was closed." And on, yeah, that's out there. They may not let me back into the country when I go to England.
right.
I listened to a interview with Terry Moran, the guy that got bounced out of
Yeah.
ABC, and at the end of it, the interviewer asked him, "So, what do you make of what's taken place with the deportations and the troops on the street and everything like that?" And he had a really dark answer that said, people should not think, well, could this happen here? It's happening. And that he tried to put it in a positive light, but then he gave up on it and just said how desperate times are going to get. Although he said he thinks the country can rebound from it, but he believes that there are tough days ahead.
Yeah.
Terry Moran said that.
Yeah.
Was it all his problems? Was that from the interview he did with the president?
Well,
I watched it.
yeah.
It was weird.
He talks about a lot about him and Trump getting into whether or not the tattoo on the one guy was supposed to say MS-13, and Moran says no, it wasn't on him from photographs when he was in Venezuela or South America. And this has all been photoshopped, and Trump says no, it wasn't, and then Moran says, let's agree to disagree on this, and Trump won't let it go. I mean, he wants to argue over it a lot, and Moran said, "Look, man, I was ready to let it go. I probably shouldn't have said agree to disagree. It's just that we're in dispute on this." But he said that it went on a lot longer than he wanted to. So I don't know if that had as much to do with it as that tweet after midnight on a week ago Friday. And Moran says, "Look, it wasn't a drunk tweet. I wasn't drinking, but I'd been thinking all day about how much I didn't. I dislike Stephen Miller and what a threat that he represents. And he said, so I just kind of gathered my thoughts and put it out there. He didn't apologize for it at all. And personally, as a guy who spent 45 years in journalism, I thought his tweet was over the line. But I also don't think that ABC lifted a finger to defend him, and that was pretty egregious. And Moran thinks that ABC's parent company are on the verge of kowtowing to Trump again after the Stephanopoulos settlement.
Well, they want the Paramount merger to go through.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was not. I'll defend his right to say it, but it was.
I struggle with that Moran thing. I mean, he just totally jumped out of his. I don't want to say lane, but that's just not how you approach it.
Yeah, I mean, for a guy who's supposed to be a straight reporter, and in this interview, he says, the guy that was interviewing him said, I'm kind of a Main Street Republican. What are your politics? And Moran says, I'm kind of a Hubert Humphrey Democrat. And I said, okay, that's a responsible answer.
Yeah, you have to be about 85 to be a Hubert Humphrey Democrat.
Well, yeah, except the guy is 65.
Well, that's still, yeah.
But I think what he was saying is he subscribes to a classic progressive, acceptable brand of liberalism that doesn't get him tarred by the identity politics of the Democratic Party now. So. But yeah, no, I'm with you, Matt. I think he jumped his lane.
It's a shame. I mean, I'd rather he was still around, but he knows what the politics are at Paramount above him. I mean, he had to know what was coming.
Yeah, well, and it's not his problem anymore. I mean, he's out.
Yeah, that's too bad because.
Well, it's interesting times, isn't it? I mean,
and not to beat a dead horse here, but on the ABC World News Tonight, which I happen to watch tonight, it's not my favorite net newscast by any stretch of the imagination. Mm-hmm. ABC did a one-on-one interview with Benjamin Netanyahu today. They gave it to Jonathan Karl, who's a pretty good reporter, and he used two short clips, both of them under 10 seconds, of Netanyahu saying, on one of them, we want to take out the leadership of Iran. And then the other one was something to the effect of, well, Donald Trump can try to do a deal if he wants to, but I think it's too late for a deal. And so they had two 10-second clips from the guy who's, started a missile war with Tehran, with Iran. I'm not defending Iran, but, it's a big story, and ABC just phoned it in. Their first story of the day dealt with the Minnesota shooting. The second story in the newscast was rough weather and flooding in the country, and then they went to what potentially could be World War III, or at least a nuclear exchange if they're not careful. So I don't know.
Yeah, flooding in the country, but no FEMA.
Yeah.
Pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you better edit this part of the recording out, or the AI is going to track us all down.
I know.
Oh, God.
If they don't let me back in the country, gosh darn it, I might have to stay in England.
Well, if we're back on in 2 weeks.
Well, if that's the case, at least go over to Ireland. All right.
Oh, you better believe it. Oh yeah.
I know you will.
Go back. I'll go back.
I'll come visit.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
We
Can't
all may
find
have
me.
to.
Brogan's Pub in Ennis, County Clare. Yes. I'll make my way there somehow. Yeah. worth the
I gotta go.
look
Good
for me
pick.
there.
All right.
Yeah,
All
great,
right.
Karen.
Yeah.
Everybody.
All right. I'll see you guys in August.
Thanks.
Have a good
Bye,
trip.
guys.
Have fun.
Take care.
Be safe
Thank
on your trip.
you. Thank you.
See everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye.